We talked about T. Higgins on the main channel, and the link is in the description for that video. You guys know my main channel. We got almost 18,000 subscribers. This is the Dynasty channel that you're watching right now. We just kind of started it. We got 1,000 subscribers. Subscribe if you're new. Over the last couple months, my direction of this channel has kind of evolved, and the conclusion I've come to, at least for right now, about the direction of the channel is that I want to piggyback off videos on the redraft channel or the main channel. I shouldn't call the main channel a redraft channel because we covered Dynasty like crazy on it. But I want to take whatever we're talking about there and kind of trail behind it over here, meaning I just dropped a could T. Higgins get traded video, and I think it'd be amazing, and this is my plan going forward, so kind of expect it, is that the Dynasty content will then pile up on top of that topic. So if you watch a T. Higgins video that just drops on the main channel, you're like, okay, Smitty's gonna now go in within 24 hours or less or a little bit over, drop a Dynasty version of it. So they go hand in hand, and you kind of know what to expect on the Dynasty channel. And without even knowing the menu, you'll be like, hey, Smitty did this. He talked about Barkley right now. He might be dropping a Barkley Dynasty video. And it's perfect because it goes hand in hand. So we talked about Higgins. What if he gets traded? Could he get traded? Why would he get traded? Well, number one, as we talked about on the video on the main channel, which again, go watch it, link in the description, is that the Bengals are going to have to pay Joe Burrow a bag. They're going to have to pay Jamar Chase a bag. And it's very arguable that trading T. Higgins away for a first-round pick in this 2023 NFL draft, let's say it's in the 14 to 22 range, and you're able to replace Higgins with a Jordan Addison or a Jackson Smith and Jigba or a Flowers or a Johnston, one of the top 4 wide receivers, let's say, you're resetting the clock on the wide receiver and how much time you have with them before they become a player you got to pay the bag to. And while we love Higgins, right? We love Higgins, okay? I'm not trying to knock on Higgins at all. I'm not suggesting that Higgins isn't a low-end wide receiver 1 in fantasy, because with Joe Burrow, whoever that number 2 wide receiver is, if they're competent enough, if they're good enough like Higgins is to be potentially a wide receiver 1 in another environment with no other wide receivers to compete, Joe Burrow can turn that receiver into a low-end wide receiver 1. But do I actually like Jordan Addison, maybe JSN, maybe Flowers, maybe Johnston more than T. Higgins? I'm not going to say all 4 of them, but 1 or 2 of those guys I think are very, very likely to be just as good as T. Higgins. T. Higgins isn't a top 5 wide receiver. Is he a 8 to 14? And I give a wide range there because a lot of it's, can he stay healthy for a whole year? Will Jamar Chase be healthy if Higgins is vaulted into the number 1 spot because Jamar Chase misses 8 games or 4 games or something? Higgins could be number 7. He could be number 14. But there's no room for Higgins in the top 5 or 6 wide receivers, Dynasty or redraft. And I truly believe that Addison or JSN, let's just stick with those 2 wide receivers right now, or Flowers, whatever you want. Picture the wide receiver you love. But that wide receiver, in my opinion, with Joe Burrow in that situation, would probably be just as good. So could Higgins be traded? Yes. What team has wide receiver 1, like massive wide receiver 1 coin wrapped up in 2 wide receivers, 2 players at the same position, consuming all that cash? Nobody really does that. So it's very, very possible that the Bengals trade him. So from a Dynasty perspective, what do we think of Higgins in Cincy? We love him. Top 8 to 14, like I said. But in Dynasty, do you trade him now or trade for him now in anticipation that his value could potentially change for the better or the worse based on where he goes? I firmly believe that no bad situation is going to come a knocking for T. Higgins. Let's look at the first round right now and say, like, Green Bay probably can't afford it, but cap can be moved. If Aaron Rodgers returned, let's say, and they just restructured Aaron Jones. That was interesting today that they did that to keep him. Instead of letting him go or whatever, maybe they're reloading, and maybe Rodgers is going to come back and return to the Packers. But there's always ways to move money around. But in Green Bay, Higgins would be fire. Green Bay has the number 15 pick to offer up for Higgins. Higgins will command a first-round pick if you're trading for Higgins. Chicago's got the 1 pick. They'd have to trade down like we expect that they will, because they don't want to draft a quarterback. It's smoke season, right? Let's say the Bears trade their 1 pick for the Lions 6 and the 18. Now the Bears own 6 and 18, and now they could trade the 18 for T. Higgins. It's all possible, right? And if Higgins is in Chicago, I love him from a Dynasty perspective. I don't think I raise him or vault him up into the top 6 or 7. I think he's still around 8 to 14, but I think maybe he's more consistent 8 to 14, meaning that I don't think a move from Cincinnati where he's got Joe Burrow throwing him the football. I don't care if he's not the number 1 wide receiver. He's the number 2 wide receiver or the 1B in a Joe Burrow offense. That's almost arguably better than any isolated being the number 1 wide receiver elsewhere. But Fields is a good quarterback. I think he improves, and I think that Higgins is going to get enough consistent volume there that maybe he goes from being an 8 to 14 in Cincinnati to maybe an 8 to 12, or maybe he's more consistently inside the top 10 part of that 8 to 14 because he's getting more consistent volume. So is he better long term? Maybe not, but I don't think he loses value. He only maybe gains consistency. So if you want to trade for Higgins on the assumption he's going somewhere like that, I don't think you're going to lose value or mess up trading for T. Higgins. And anybody trading for him, giving up first round draft capital, isn't going to do so to acquire him and not have any other ability to pull other players in. Example, Washington's not going to surrender their number 16 overall pick for T. Higgins and then be like, okay, we still don't have a quarterback. Like, that was a dumb move. Seattle could give up the 20 pick, let's say. I mean, you never know. The Chargers 21 overall. Why? Because Herbert's ready now. The Chargers, they probably feel they're ready now. We know they don't look like they're ready now. But if Keenan Allen's no longer on the roster in 2023, which is a big rumor right now that Keenan Allen will not be there in 2023, you do need another wide receiver. Mike Williams cannot stay healthy. And come to think of it, I think that's one of the only teams that does have elite wide receiver 1 money going to 2 different wide receivers. And maybe they're trying to get rid of that problem. But if they don't replace Keenan Allen with a T. Higgins capable player, Justin Herbert is not bouncing back. Some say Bijan Robinson's the pick here at 21. And if that happened, I would be more okay with them not addressing the wide receiver position to the degree we're talking. So you have Mike Williams, you bring in somebody else, but you have Bijan Robinson and Eckler. That I do actually like a lot. So aside from that scenario, the Chargers trading for T. Higgins would be a good move with that 21 pick. Why does it make sense for the Chargers to bring in T. Higgins and pay him bank versus taking Addison or JSN? It does and it doesn't. It doesn't because, like I said, Herbert's trying to bounce back now. The Chargers are trying to win now. Not that JSN or Addison can't win now, but JSN or Addison would be the number 1 wide receiver. I don't think Mike Williams would be if drafted there, and that could take time. It may not take time. Sometimes these wide receivers, they explode right away. But I'm not like ultra confident in the Chargers situation in terms of developing one of those guys as quickly and as fast as Joe Burrow could in Cincinnati. So you could argue that it's better for the Chargers to reset the clock on their wide receiver, and it makes sense to argue that. You can make arguments on either side, but I think that if you wanted to win now and attack now, JSN and Addison would help Cincy continue to win now and attack now. Higgins would probably better help the Chargers kind of rebound from the fall they kind of took last year. But money is a big factor. And again, if I'm running an organization, even if I am running the Chargers situation, I'm probably taking Addison or Bijan and not trading the pick. But if a wide receiver is to be acquired, it would be a great move for the Chargers. In a nutshell, all in all, I mean, the landing spots for T. Higgins, assuming that he is going to be traded, which we don't know if he will be, but if he is traded this offseason, the Bengals will be getting a first-round pick. The Bengals will most certainly, I would think, ask for a first-round pick in this NFL draft class, and I just don't see a lot of scenarios that will leave T. Higgins in a worse spot than he's in now. The teams that would use these picks, Green Bay, Seattle, the Chargers, Baltimore, that one's kind of iffy to me because if they retain Lamar, how are they going to bring in T. Higgins and pay him a bag? So it doesn't feel like that one would work unless they franchise tag Lamar, make Lamar play on the tag, and bring in Higgins on it and give him the bag, which would burn Lamar to see. I don't think that one happens. Minnesota, I mean, they could try, but they're paying Cousins like $800 billion, so I don't know how that's going to work. Jacksonville, they've got a lot of wide receivers. New York would be interesting, and the problem with New York, though, that pick is so late, 25, maybe there's a wide receiver left there, but the top 4 wide receivers, they're probably gone by that 25 pick, but it could be something that the Bengals do, and Dable might want a big elite wide receiver to help Danny Dimes take that next step. Dallas is at 26. Jerry's capable of anything. Buffalo, Casey at 31. I mean, all those are potential situations that I could see, getting brought up and rumors getting kicked around. But ultimately, if I'm the Bengals, I'm not moving him if I'm not getting a pick that lands me one of the top 4 wide receivers. In a nutshell, I think T. Higgins is, in my opinion, a little too injury prone for my liking. And if I could trade him on the spec that he's going to get a solo gig somewhere, and maybe you wait for the trade to actually happen if a trade does happen, so you can garner the most interest and value and potential kickback to you, because I believe Higgins traded out of Cincy will have a reaction with people that is like, oh my God, he's a solo guy now. And that's going to be, I think, a boost in his trade market value. So my advice is to wait. Let T. Higgins maybe gain some buzz and some excitement, because people love talking about players that are in the news, players that situations could change. For whatever reason, changing situation, especially when it is, hey, maybe you go from the number 2 wide receiver on your team to the number 1, that can kickstart a bunch of interest, and people that might not want to trade for him might come a knocking. So wait a little bit. I think you hold off. But T. Higgins, if you do want to deal him, if you are like me and you worry a little bit about his injury history, if you're like me and you think, okay, I like him like everybody else, I don't like to be the guy down on T. Higgins, because I do like him a lot, but I don't quite feel like he's elite top 5 wide receiver material type of guy. I feel like he's going to be that 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in a big range year to year, different ranking each year. I feel like he's that kind of guy. And for that reason, I'm very interested and intrigued as to what I could get in a kickback in a trade. Until next time, broskies, appreciate you. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Make sure you get on over to the main channel, which has about 18,000 subscribers as of the recording of this video. This one's brand new. This is the Dynasty channel. If you stumbled upon this and you think you're watching the main channel, subscribe to it and get ready for more Dynasty content. Whenever I drop something on the main channel, I'm probably going to come back full circle and drop a Dynasty video on whichever bad boy we're talking about. Today we're talking about Higgins. Now get out of here.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.